How's it going?
Good. So we've talked to everyone, and everyone's been super secretive.
Yes.
What can you tell us?
Dusty, what can you tell them?
Well, I don't know what secrets they have or have not shared, but
Really good. Yeah.
you've probably heard that Castle Rock is an anthology horror series set in the universe of Stephen King, and it takes place in the town of Castle Rock, which is this town that Stephen King created and put into a bunch of his books, and that like 30 of the books mention, and some of the most iconic stories are set there.
It's a town where you do not want to live. It's a town that had a really, really, really bad run of luck in the Stephen King library.
And that was kind of the approach that we brought to this in the first place, which was that obviously a lot of the most iconic Kingian books and stories are sort of white picket fence stories where a monster or something terrible happens in town, and we actually wanted to ask the question, well, what happens after that? What happens when a town that has been revisited by horrors, that has had the devil and a rabid dog and 2 serial killers, what happens in a small town like that, and who stays in a small town like that? And those are the kinds of characters that we were really interested in starting to explore as we kind of lulled them into a false sense of security before something else terrible began.
So the other people I don't know what people have told you or have not told you, but we're showing this teaser today, that one of the things that is revealed in the teaser is that Shawshank Prison plays a really important role in this first season's storytelling, which was super exciting to both of us. I think we love different seasons, and the novella Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption is like up on the Mount Olympus of Stephen King works for both of us. The movie is obviously incredibly iconic, so it's been very exciting to be able to sort of play in that world. But so the first season's story involves. Now here's where I have to think about how to phrase this very carefully so that J.J. Abrams won't come down from a cloud and smite me. But it involves a very unusual and existentially mysterious legal case of a prisoner at Shawshank, and it sort of ropes a son of Castle Rock, a capital defense lawyer named Henry Keeper, who's played by Andre Holland, who's left Castle Rock and has not been back in many years, sort of back into the world of the storytelling, and then unravels a whole set of sort of disturbing mysteries.
So one of the things that we talked about previously was the fact that there seems to be a resurgence of Stephen King. There was in the early 80s, early 90s, there were a lot of Stephen King properties, and they all kind of died off in the world. Why do you think that it's become so popular again? And basically, why do you think it's become so relevant again in today's society?
Yeah, it's really interesting, and I think that in a lot of ways, and this is part of why we're excited to do the show in the first place, we feel like Stephen King is a really contemporary writer, and so in every era that he's written books, his books are really about the present that we live in and about the things people fear in this moment. And so it's sort of, I guess, hard to exactly understand why certain things ebb and flow in the culture in that way, but I think for us, Stephen King never ever went away, and so we've really been, I think, and got excited about this project years ago and started thinking about it because we feel like Stephen King is a writer who deserves to be shown to a contemporary audience, and that was sort of part of it.
And then I would say too, look, the story we think is exciting and disturbing and entertaining, and we're not trying to impart some big lofty message, but I will also say that I think this is a moment when a lot of people feel that the world is a very scary place and a very uncertain place. I mean, this is literally the era of terror, and I think that we would be remiss in trying to tell a horror story or a story about fear and not try to engage with some bigger questions about what happens to us when we're afraid, and assign blame, and how we define monsters, and particularly when you're dealing with a story that has to do with crime and punishment, which obviously is a subject matter that Stephen King is really invested in, from Shawshank Redemption to Green Mile and a lot of the stories. It felt like a chance to tell a story that is as much about fear in the present moment as it is a story that I hope will provoke fear in the audience too, in a pleasurable way.
What's it like to work with Hulu compared to other TV shows?
They've been amazing. I have to say they've been such great partners. Do you work at Hulu? No, they've been amazing. They truly have. I think that they embraced the vision for the kind of show that we wanted to make, which is a kind of grown-up psychological horror story set in this world of Stephen King, and we hope a really cinematic story. It's sort of like sometimes the aesthetics of horror are kind of disposable and sort of cheap, but to try to harken back to like the Kubrick, De Palma, Cronenberg era and have a really beautiful show and a show that has deep, complicated characters and these incredible actors,
Yeah, and I think, too, Hulu has really become a place that is supportive, I think, of artists. I mean, if you look at The Handmaid's Tale, I think that part of the reason The Handmaid's Tale turned out as wonderfully as it did is that they were really supportive of their vision from the beginning. And I think that it really is becoming a kind of place that a lot of artists want to go to bring their shows.
And do you think that a miniseries is the best format for that? Well, obviously, since that's what you went with, but compared to cinematically, there's it just came out.
Well, it did for us. Like we loved it, and obviously, Bill Skarsgård is in our cast and is really brilliant in the movie, and he's really, really brilliant in our show. But part of the thing is like there's a lot of stuff that we love in Stephen King that sort of falls away when the books get adapted to the screen, just because within the confines of like a 90-minute or 2-hour movie, often some of the complexities of character storytelling drop out. Some of the sense of backstories and histories and secrets and mysteries and blind alleys and they're really big. You look at some of his biggest books and they're like a universe unto themselves. And so it felt really cool to be able to do a story that had the bigger canvas of 10 episodes to really get to know the characters in a very deep way, so that we hope what scares them will also sort of scare the audience.
Yeah, and I think that the reason we were excited about the idea of doing an anthology was that each season, Stephen King has such a range of genres and of different kinds of scares, and of from The Shawshank Redemption all the way to The Stand. It's like there's just an enormous range of the kinds of story that he likes to tell, and so we felt like to embrace the Stephen King universe, we really wanted to be able to tell some very different kinds of stories. So we took on Crime and Punishment and kind of that genre of Stephen King in this first season, but a next season would inevitably take on some very different aspects of the King canon.
Was the setting, like the state of Maine, something that you wanted to retain for that as well?
Oh yeah, big time. I mean, this is a thing that I don't know why, maybe a little wonky thing about as a kid, I loved maps, I loved place, and there's such a strong sense of place and region in Stephen King, like these towns, not just Castle Rock, Derry, and he really he's almost like a kind of anthropologist of life in these little towns in Maine, and so trying to represent Maine in all of its weirdness. It's like I've spent a lot of time in Maine, and I love it, and it's beautiful, and it's really strange, and so just kind of digging in a deep way into that sense of that town.
Yeah, and too, we're shooting the show in New England, we're shooting in Massachusetts, and I think part of that was that we really wanted an authentic feel. The idea of shooting houses that feel like they're very much in that New England aesthetic was really important to us, because that sense of place does come from kind of where you choose to shoot.
Yeah.
So of course, Stephen King is known to his many fans. Very strong characters, very strong sense of setting. Can you tell me about the possible fear in dropping original content when people are so protective of his characters and his place? What is it like to drop original content into that world?
I would say we come to the material as super fans, so we come to it with a great sense of humility and appreciation for the spirit that he's brought to this project, which is he's been really flexible and enthusiastic. I mean, I sort of feel like it's like if you can retell Hamlet, 100,000 times and reset it so it's a reflection of like what life is like, in the like eve of World War II, or what it's like in the era of the War on Terror, and if we can like revisit the death of Bruce Wayne's parents in that alley, 17 times on screen. I also feel like the Stephen King library, which is so important to so many of us, and sort of defined what being afraid as an adolescent and as an adult feels like to so many of us. Like, feels like that is material that we should be able to return to and reinterpret and expand upon too. And so we hope that fans will be excited and that they'll at least appreciate the spirit that we brought to the material, which is like that it is not always totally strict constructionist and faithful to the letter of every aspect of every one of the books, but what we really tried to do was approach this material as like a love letter to the kind of spirit of the books that meant so much to us.
You guys, on that note, I got to pull.
Thank you.
I see
Thank you guys.